Hello and welcome to Sleep Flow Studio. Here we create calm and gentle stories, soothing sounds and relaxing atmospheres to help you unwind, drift into peace and gently fall asleep. Thank you for joining Sleep Flow Studio, where every evening can become a peaceful journey. It was a quiet evening. The kind of evening where the sky seems to hang low and the air feels heavier, filled with the scent of wet earth. The rain began slowly at first, a gentle tapping on the roof of a small stone cottage that sat by the river. Each droplet made a tiny soft sound, blending into a rhythm so soothing it almost demanded attention. Inside, the fire in the hearth crackled quietly, sending soft warmth across the wooden floor. The room smelled faintly of burning wood, and the faint aroma of fresh bread still lingered from the afternoon baking. A soft light from the fireplace illuminated the worn furniture. A wooden table, smooth from years of use, sat in the center of the room. A chair was tucked neatly beside it. Shelves lined with books and jars of herbs filled one wall. The window, slightly fogged from the warmth inside, revealed the rainy world outside. Trees swayed gently in the wind, their leaves glistening with droplets that caught the last of the evening light. As the rain continued, the countryside seemed to slow its pace. Birds had taken shelter in the dense branches, their usual chatter subdued into quiet rustlings. The river beside the cottage whispered as it carried the rainfall downstream, reflecting the muted colors of the sky. A lone swan drifted slowly, seemingly unaware of the weather, gliding over the calm surface as if nothing could disturb its gentle presence. Inside, a woman sat by the window wrapped in a soft shawl. Her hair, slightly damp from the occasional venture outside to check the garden, curled gently around her face. She held a cup of tea in her hands, inhaling the warm steam, and watched the rain blur the shapes of the distant hills. Everything outside seemed softened, muted and distant, like a painting come to life. She thought of nothing in particular, letting her mind drift with the rhythm of the rain. The steady tapping became a kind of music, each note coaxing her closer to stillness. A cat curled on the hearth rug, its tail twitching lazily, eyes half closed in contentment. Occasionally, the wind would shift, and the sound of rain against the trees would change subtly, as if the countryside itself were breathing. The cottage had stood in this spot for generations, its stones worn by time and weather. Stories of past inhabitants seemed to linger in the walls, quiet whispers of lives long lived. Yet there was nothing sad or lonely about it. Rather, it felt comforting, grounding. It was a home that had witnessed countless evenings like this one, and it seemed as though it would continue to do so for many more to come. As darkness slowly gathered across the landscape, the rain grew steadier, its gentle percussion filling every corner of the room. The woman sipped her tea slowly, savoring the warmth and the calm. Outside, the hills became shadows, the trees mere silhouettes against the fading light. Yet the rain continued, constant and reassuring, a lullaby for the world. Hours seemed to pass, though it was difficult to tell in the soft, rain-drenched evening. The only movements were those of the flickering fire, the gentle rise and fall of the woman's chest as she relaxed, and the occasional shift of the cat on the rug. It was the kind of evening where nothing needed to happen, where time itself seemed to pause, allowing one to simply exist quietly, peacefully. The rain, persistent and unhurried, washed the world in shades of silver and gray, and in that gentle gloom, with the warmth of the hearth and the quiet companionship of a cat and a cup of tea, the woman felt the perfect serenity of a rainy evening in the countryside. The rain had been falling steadily for hours, turning the narrow paths of the countryside into glistening trails of silver. Every stone, leaf, and blade of grass was wet and shining, reflecting the dim light of the evening. The cottage, snug and protected against the damp, seemed even more inviting. From inside, the gentle patter of water against the roof and windows became a comforting companion, a quiet symphony that made the room feel like a safe haven from the restless world outside. The woman rose from her chair by the window, stretching gently as she moved toward the small kitchen. The wooden floor creaked slightly under her steps, a familiar, comforting sound. She opened a drawer and retrieved a notebook, its pages slightly yellowed from years of use. Sitting back by the window, she began to write slowly, letting her thoughts drift as her pen moved across the paper. Each word she wrote mirrored the rhythm of the rain, deliberate and unhurried, a reflection of the evening itself. Outside, the river's gentle whispers had grown louder as the rainfall increased, mingling with the soft rustling of leaves. The trees swayed in the wind, yet their movements were smooth and unhurried, as if dancing to the steady music of the rain. From time to time, a small bird would appear on a branch, shaking off water and fluffing its wet feathers, then disappearing quickly into the shelter of denser foliage. Everything moved with a slow grace, nothing rushed, everything in harmony with the quiet, rainy night. The woman paused from her writing to gaze at the horizon. The hills, now cloaked in a misty veil of rain, seemed to stretch endlessly, fading into gentle shades of gray and blue. The world beyond the cottage appeared distant, soft-edged, as if she were looking through a delicate, watery lens. Each droplet that slid down the window pane traced a slow, winding path, merging with others before disappearing into the muted world outside. In the corner of the room, the cat had shifted its position, curling even tighter around itself. Its soft purrs blended with the rain, creating a serene soundscape. She reached down to stroke its fur, feeling the warmth and softness beneath her fingertips. The rhythmic motion of her hand against the cat's back mirrored the slow pulse of her heartbeat, steady and calm. As she continued to watch the rain, her mind wandered to the garden just beyond the window. Though damp and quiet, it thrived in the gentle shower. Tiny droplets clung to the petals of late-blooming flowers, bending them delicately under their weight. The vegetables in the small patch near the fence glistened with moisture, their leaves swaying slightly in the evening breeze. Everything seemed alive, Yet everything moved with patience, waiting, enduring, and thriving in the quiet rhythm of the rain. She thought about the past, though not with urgency or worry. Memories floated by like drifting leaves on the river, soft and slow. A neighbor who had once stopped by with a basket of apples. The laughter of a distant friend from many years ago. The soft warmth of summer evenings that now felt like a distant dream, all mingled with the present, adding depth and quiet joy to the tranquil evening. The wind shifted, and with it came a slightly cooler draft that carried the earthy scent of the rain-soaked countryside. She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders, savoring the sensation of warmth against the cool air. Each breath she took was calm and deliberate, filling her lungs with the clean, refreshing scent of wet earth, leaves, and the faint aroma of the river. Outside, the rain continued, neither fierce nor weak, but steady and reassuring. The gentle ripples on the river reflected the dim light of the early evening, while droplets ran down branches and leaves, creating tiny fleeting silver streams. A frog croaked softly from the far bank, adding a gentle note to the quiet symphony of nature. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting, pausing, simply existing in a moment of perfect calm. Back inside, she returned to her notebook, letting her thoughts flow freely onto the page. The fire crackled, sending tiny sparks dancing upward before fading into soft orange glows. Shadows flickered along the walls, stretching and bending with the movement of the flames. The cat purred, the rain tapped, and the river whispered outside. Everything blended into one seamless experience of calm, quiet, and gentle continuity. It was an evening that had no rush, no urgency, no need for excitement. It was simply a rainy evening in the countryside, a perfect pause, a quiet haven, a moment for the heart and mind to settle, to breathe, to rest. As the evening deepened, the light outside began to fade further, leaving the landscape cloaked in soft, muted shades of gray. The rain continued steadily, a gentle, constant rhythm that seemed to wrap the countryside in a quiet, protective embrace. The river reflected the dimming sky, its surface rippling in time with the raindrops that fell from above. The hills, softened by mist, appeared like shadows that stretched endlessly, merging with the darkening horizon. Inside the cottage, the woman lit a small lantern on the table. Its warm glow mingled with the firelight, casting soft reflections on the walls and ceiling. The shadows moved slowly, flickering in a gentle dance that mirrored the sway of trees outside. The room felt safe, cocooned from the chill and dampness of the rainy night, a haven where nothing demanded attention except the quiet rhythm of the evening. She poured herself another cup of tea, the steam curling upward in delicate spirals. The fragrance of the tea mingled with the scent of the fire and the faint aroma of wet earth drifting through the slightly open window. Taking a sip, she closed her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the drink flow through her, blending perfectly with the soothing sounds of rain and the faint crackle of the hearth. The cat, still curled on the rug, shifted slightly, stretching its limbs with lazy precision before settling back into a comfortable position. Its soft purr was steady, a subtle vibration that added to the overall calm of the room. Occasionally, the wind outside would brush against the windows, creating a low, gentle whistle that harmonized with the tapping of raindrops. The combination of fire, rain, and soft animal presence created an atmosphere that was serene and deeply comforting. Through the window, she watched the garden in the rain. Droplets clung to the leaves and petals, each one sparkling faintly in the dim light. The flowers bent slightly under the weight of the water, yet there was grace in their movements. The vegetables in the small plot near the fence glistened, and the grass seemed greener, heavier, and more alive than during any dry afternoon. Even in the rain, life continued quietly, steadily, with patience and resilience that she admired in her own gentle way. A soft breeze drifted through the slightly open window, carrying with it the earthy scent of wet soil and leaves. It mingled with the warmth of the cottage, creating a perfect balance that made the room feel alive yet utterly calm. She leaned back in her chair, watching the rain blur the outlines of trees and hills, letting her thoughts float freely without any particular direction. Memories came and went like drifting clouds. She remembered evenings from her childhood, spent in a similar cottage, listening to rain as her mother read stories by candlelight. She remembered long walks in wet meadows, the feeling of rain on her skin, and the gentle murmur of streams swollen with rainfall. Each memory carried a soft weight of nostalgia, not heavy or sorrowful, but calming, like a gentle lullaby sung by the past itself. As night settled completely, the sounds of the countryside changed subtly. The river's whispers became deeper, the wind through the trees softer, and the occasional distant call of a night bird punctuated the quiet. Every sound was gentle, measured, as if the world were slowing its pulse to match hers. She sipped her tea again, savoring the warmth, and felt a profound sense of stillness settle over her mind and body. The rain continued, unhurried and steady. Each drop was a note in an endless lullaby, each ripple on the river a reminder of the continuity of life, and each flicker of firelight a soft heartbeat in the cozy room. She realized that in this quiet evening, in this small cottage by the river, there was a perfect harmony between the self and the world, a slow, breathing, living rhythm that needed no interference, no rush, no noise beyond what nature provided. Eventually, she placed the cup down and stood by the window, listening to the rain and feeling the damp breeze brush her face. The world outside was drenched, glistening, and muted, yet it was alive and beautiful in its simplicity. The night promised more hours of gentle rain, more quiet companionship, and more moments to simply exist without thought or worry. And in that promise, she found a deep, enduring peace that would carry her softly through the evening and into sleep. By now, the evening had settled into a deep, quiet night. The rain outside continued its gentle rhythm, steady but soft, each droplet tracing a tiny, glistening path down the leaves and branches. The river beside the cottage rippled faintly, reflecting the dim light of the lantern inside. The hills beyond were barely visible, shrouded in mist and the soft darkness of night. Inside the cottage was warm and inviting. The fire had died down to glowing embers, sending tiny sparks floating upward before fading into the shadows. The woman sat near the hearth, wrapped in a thick shawl, her hands resting on her knees. The room smelled of wood smoke and the faint lingering scent of rain carried in from the open window. It was a night of stillness, of calm, of quiet companionship between her, the cat, and the gentle sounds outside. The wind shifted slightly, sending a cooler draft through the open window. The rain, pattering steadily against the roof and window pane, seemed to intensify for a moment, then return to its usual gentle cadence. She watched the droplets run slowly down the glass, merging and separating in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, almost meditative. Each tiny movement was enough to draw her attention, yet not enough to disturb the peace of the moment. She let her thoughts wander freely, drifting from one memory to another like leaves carried on a slow river. She remembered childhood evenings spent in similar cottages, the warmth of a fire, the sound of rain against wooden walls, and the soft murmurs of her family. There was comfort in recalling such simple moments, a deep, quiet reassurance that life, in its slow and steady rhythms, carried on much as it always had. Outside, the night deepened. Trees swayed slightly in the wind, their leaves whispering softly with every movement. Occasionally, a small animal scurried across the wet undergrowth. Its presence felt more than seen. The river flowed steadily, its water dark and calm, reflecting the silvered light of the clouds above. Even in darkness there was life, subtle and unhurried, moving in perfect harmony with the quiet night. The woman rose slowly, stretching her arms and legs, and walked toward the window. She pressed her hands against the cool glass, feeling the slight chill of the rain on the other side. The garden beyond was dark but alive, each leaf and flower glistening with moisture. Tiny droplets slid down the petals of flowers and clung to the edges of leaves, moving slowly, quietly, as if taking their time to explore the world. She thought about the river again, imagining its journey far beyond the hills, winding through valleys and forests, carrying the rain she had watched fall all evening. The thought was soothing, reminding her that even the smallest actions, the falling of a single drop, the ripple in the water, the sway of a branch, were part of a vast, gentle, interconnected world. Back in the room, the cat had shifted slightly, purring softly, a steady vibration that blended perfectly with the rain. She stroked its fur, feeling the warmth and softness beneath her fingertips. There was something profound in these small moments, in the quiet touch, the soft sound, the gentle companionship of another living being. The night itself seemed to stretch and breathe with her, each second lingering longer than the last. She returned to her chair by the fire and picked up the notebook again. Her pen moved slowly across the page, words forming at the pace of her thoughts. She wrote about the rain, the river, the gentle sway of trees, and the soft warmth of the cottage. There was no urgency in the writing, no need for grand narratives or drama. The words flowed as the rain flowed, steadily, softly, creating a tapestry of calm that mirrored the evening outside. The night seemed endless, yet in the best possible way. Each sound, each sight, each sensation was small and deliberate, coaxing her mind into a state of quiet reflection. The fire flickered one last time before settling into steady warmth. The rain continued, constant and reassuring. The river whispered, the trees rustled, the cat purred, and she breathed slowly and deeply, feeling her body sink further into comfort and calm. It was a rainy evening in the countryside, a night that had no rush, no urgency, no demand beyond simply being. And in this perfect quiet, she felt her thoughts slow, her heart settle, and a soft drowsiness begin to drift over her, gentle and welcoming, guiding her ever so softly towards sleep. The night had grown deeper now, and the rain continued its steady, soft rhythm. Outside, the world was cloaked in darkness, broken only by occasional reflections of the lanterns from distant cottages. The river flowed quietly, carrying the steady rhythm of the raindrops onward, as if joining in the lullaby of the evening. The hills beyond were shrouded in mist, their edges blurred and softened by the gentle rainfall. Inside the cottage, the woman moved quietly from room to room. She checked the small kitchen, where a kettle of water sat ready for the next cup of tea, though she knew she would not need it. The soft glow of the lantern in the hallway illuminated worn wooden beams, each one telling a story of years gone by. The walls, lined with books and small keepsakes, seemed to hum with quiet familiarity, adding to the comforting atmosphere. She returned to the main room and sank once more into her chair by the fire. The cat had shifted slightly, curling even tighter into a soft, warm ball of fur. Its rhythmic purring blended seamlessly with the sound of the rain, creating a gentle, soothing cadence. She took a deep breath, inhaling the mingling scents of wood smoke, tea, and damp earth that drifted in from the open window. Each breath felt cleansing, grounding, and calming, as if the night itself were exhaling through her. The rain tapped softly against the windows, sometimes harder, sometimes lighter, but always consistent, always reassuring. The patterns it traced on the glass seemed almost deliberate, moving slowly in curves and lines that were easy to follow with the eyes. She found herself mesmerized, letting her thoughts drift as freely as the droplets, her mind settling into a state of serene calm. She thought of the river, of its long journey through valleys and fields. She imagined the tiny fish swimming beneath the surface, moving lazily through the gentle currents, aware of the rain above but not disturbed by it. She imagined the trees along its banks, each one standing tall and steady, leaves glistening, branches bending slightly in the breeze, welcoming the rain without resistance. Each element seemed alive, yet utterly calm, teaching a lesson in patience and quiet endurance. Back in the cottage, the fire crackled softly, sending occasional sparks upward before fading into warmth. The shadows on the walls moved gently, stretching and bending as if breathing alongside her. She ran her fingers along the edges of the notebook beside her, feeling the texture of the paper and the smoothness of the pen. Words had been written slowly, carefully, as the evening passed, each one a reflection of the tranquility surrounding her. Outside, the occasional distant sound of an owl punctuated the soft symphony of rain and river. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the earthy scent of wet soil, fallen leaves, and moss. A gentle chill reminded her of the world beyond the cottage walls, yet the warmth inside was comforting and complete, allowing her to appreciate the contrast without discomfort. The night had become so still that even the smallest sound seemed pronounced. The soft tapping of rain on a roof tile, the faint ripple of the river against its banks, the subtle rustle of a leaf moving in the wind. She listened, letting each sound guide her thoughts deeper into calm. Nothing needed to happen. There were no expectations, no urgency, no rush. The night simply existed, perfectly, fully, and wholly. She glanced at the notebook one last time before setting it gently aside. The pen rested beside it, still warm from her hands. She allowed herself to sink further into the chair, feeling the weight of the evening settle comfortably over her shoulders. Her eyes drifted toward the window, where the rain continued to fall softly, each droplet a gentle reminder of the steady rhythm of life and nature. The cat purred, the fire glowed faintly, the river whispered, and the rain played its endless lullaby. Her mind, relaxed and untroubled, began to drift. Thoughts became softer, slower, and finally faded into the quiet space that the night had created. Each breath became a gentle wave rising and falling with the rhythm of the rain. And in this soft, gentle, unhurried moment, she realized the true magic of a rainy evening in the countryside. A night where nothing was demanded, nothing needed to be done, where the world slowed and allowed her to simply be, fully and completely, in peace and quiet. The night had passed in quiet harmony. The rain continued softly, though now its rhythm had slowed, more like a whisper than a steady drum. Outside, the hills and fields were wrapped in darkness, with only the faint outline of trees visible through the lingering mist. The river flowed steadily, its surface smooth and reflective, carrying with it the gentle remnants of the rainfall that had fallen for hours. Inside the cottage, the fire had died down completely, leaving only a faint glow among the embers. The woman sat quietly in her chair, wrapped in her shawl, listening to the soft sounds that filled the room. The cat had moved closer, resting its head on her lap, purring a low, steady hum that seemed to synchronize with the rhythm of the night. Every sound, every movement, every breath was deliberate in its calmness, as if the world itself had slowed to match the pace of her own heartbeat. She gazed through the window, watching the last droplets slide slowly down the glass. The garden outside shimmered with moisture, each leaf and petal reflecting the muted light of the early night. The flowers bent slightly under the weight of the rain, but they remained resilient, graceful, and alive. The vegetables and herbs in the small patch glistened, their green leaves vibrant against the subdued backdrop of the wet earth. Even in the quiet darkness, life continued steadily, patiently, and beautifully. Her thoughts drifted like clouds across a gentle sky. She thought of the river's journey, the trees standing tall, and the small creatures moving quietly through the underbrush. Each element of the countryside felt connected, part of an endless, slow-moving rhythm that held no hurry and no pressure. She realized that in this gentle cadence, there was a profound lesson that life, in its quietest moments, could be deeply nourishing, and that peace was found not in grand gestures, but in the simple, steady continuity of existence. A faint hint of dawn began to touch the horizon. The sky lightened gradually, soft shades of pale gray and muted gold blending together. Though still raining lightly, the first whispers of morning brought a delicate sense of renewal. The river reflected these gentle colors, and the mist over the hills seemed to glow faintly. Even the rain, so familiar and persistent, took on a softer tone as if acknowledging the approaching day. Inside, the cottage felt more alive with this subtle change. The warmth of the room, the quiet purr of the cat, the lingering scent of tea and wood, smoke, all combined to create a sanctuary of calm. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the comfort of the cottage and the gentle promise of the day ahead fill her senses. Each breath became slower, deeper, a soft tide moving in harmony with the rhythm of the morning. The rain finally slowed to a delicate drizzle. The river's surface mirrored the first hints of light, and the countryside, soaked and sparkling, seemed to stretch and breathe with the new day. Birds began to stir quietly, their soft calls breaking the stillness in the gentlest way. Leaves rustled lightly in the breeze, and even the distant hills seemed to sigh in quiet approval of the coming dawn. She stood slowly, moving to the window once more. Pressing her hands gently against the cool glass, she observed the world waking slowly, comfortably, without hurry. Each droplet of rain on the leaves, each ripple in the river, each soft movement of the wildlife reminded her of the quiet continuity of life. There was no rush, no urgency, only the soft unfolding of another day in the countryside, following the steady rhythm of nature. With a deep, contented sigh, she returned to her chair. The cat settled comfortably beside her, and together they watched the world outside transform from night to early morning. The gentle light, the lingering mist, the soft sound of rain, and the quiet life of the countryside created a perfect moment of stillness, a final note in the lullaby of the night. And in that stillness she felt complete, surrounded by calm, embraced by the rain-soaked world and gently carried toward rest and renewal. The rainy evening in the countryside, long and slow and quietly magical, had come to its natural, soothing conclusion.